about that?
We're recording.
All right, here we go. How you doing, everybody? This is, uh-oh, I'm getting a lag. Hold on just a second
That's
here.
okay.
I'm going to
Got to
drop
catch your
this.
mouse.
Yeah, I don't know what's going on there. We had kind of a very bad lag on the little soundboard
Mm-hmm.
on MixLR was responding about 15 seconds after I talked. So I don't like that. See if we can get a little less lag. Here we go. Testing 1 2 1 2. Oh, that's perfect. Here we go. How you doing, everybody? This is Dennis Michelson. Welcome to the Science of Fantasy Football. Why the Science of Fantasy Football? You get a meteorologist and a biologist together. They're going to use the scientific method, and that is guaranteed to make you smarter when it comes to fantasy football. How can I give a guarantee in a sport so crazy, in a game so crazy like fantasy football? Well, using the scientific method just means we're going to let the statistics guide us to an answer. We're not going to come up with an answer and then cherry pick statistics until we find one that fits that preconceived notion. And when you do that, you're going to have more success in fantasy football. And joining me as he does each and every week, 3 times a week during the regular season, he is the fantasy professor. He is a real professor. It's John Bush. And John, hard to believe that I can sneeze live on a podcast.
That's
Oh,
okay.
my goodness. My apologies to everyone. That just snuck up on me. Week 11, it's hard to believe that we've only have 4 weeks before the fantasy football playoffs are set.
Uh, Dennis, I'm allergic to some of the teams that I drafted here, the injuries and the weirdness that's been going on. So I understand having allergies. There's some craziness that's been going on. I'm feeling anxious to get it into the playoffs. I'm kind of like, I've just about figured out what teams are going to make it there, and I'm just ready to go ahead and jump in. And I got to wait a few weeks, and I'm ready now. And then I'm ready to get my research going. I've been thinking of too many ideas, and my curiosity is killing me, Dennis. And this is just a little wee bit of a gripe before we talk about the weirdness that's been happening, but curiosity. I long to see curiosity in fantasy football analyst and listen and read, and it's not a lot out there, Dennis. Usually people would be asking questions, why is this happening? Or is this unusual? Or, just having questions, driving the curiosity, driving the search for new aspects on this game. And it's just, well, what did we see last week? What do we think this week? And it never gets beyond that. I will give Dynasty folks credit that there is this broadness to it a little bit of curiosity that I see there. But in the redraft side, it's nobody's curious that I can see. Very few. I think in Dynasty, you're probably rewarded for curiosity. It's just, I don't hear a lot of it. I'm assuming it's in the back, but I do hear much more than in redraft. So if I had my New Year's resolution now, it would be more curiosity. I think will make it better for all of us and driving research and whatnot. But that's not what I'm hearing or seeing, Dennis. It's a
No,
gripe. That's a gripe.
that's a good gripe because here's the thing. If you are involved in anything that involves money. Betting money. Okay. I wouldn't go to the horse race track and accept status quo ever. I'm always wanting to learn more. I'm always looking for different angles to pursue. Because the idea is if you get smarter, you make more money. And I've never heard people at the horse race track 5 seconds after the race say, "Oh, this is all about luck. This is a game of luck. I don't know how you figure this stuff out. 18-1 shot beating a 1-5. This is just all about luck." That's all we hear in fantasy football is, "Oh, that's the luck. Oh, I'm so unlucky. Well, here's the thing. And we're in the middle of the year 17. It would be 17 straight years that I've made money in fantasy football. And looking at my teams, both on the dynasty side and the redraft side, I'm going to really, really have to have a bad stretch of luck for me not to make money for the 17th straight year. I'm not that lucky, folks. Like, I don't win the lottery. I don't win this. I don't win. I did win on having the best wife in the world. And I'm not just saying that because she can hear us as we're recording the podcast. I've told her and I've told her family that many times. But other than that, I'm not a particularly lucky or unlucky person. So for me to win money at fantasy football, which will be now, I will say it right now here, entering week 11, I'm going to win some money this year. I mean, my wife and I joke that, we have a really good fantasy football year. However, ever our fantasy football, it's going to be such a good year that we're going to go to London. We just don't know whether it's going to be London, England, or London, Kentucky. That's to be determined, by how good the rest of the season is. But I'm just not that lucky. So, but that's all you hear in fantasy football. You don't have the curiosity. And I grew up around horse players. Horse players are always curious. They always want to try new data. They want to look at new things. I remember I was like 12, 13 years old going to the track with my dad when the single shaft sulky came to horse racing, harness racing. And that became the big thing. And so, that was the first thing you did when the horses came out 10 minutes before the race and they came up for the post parade. You just looked at who had a single shaft sulky and you took some notes because it wasn't in the program yet. And my dad kept notes. This horse used the single shaft sulky for the first time on, May the 27th. And then you knew going forward how that horse had done before and after changing sulkies. This is the curiosity that horse players have. You're right. We don't see that in fantasy football. We say, just look how much of a crapshoot this is. This guy scored, 14 fantasy football points last week, and now he scored 3 this week. Well, yeah, and he had 2 targets each week. They don't understand the right things to chase in fantasy football because they don't do the work. They're not willing to do the work, yet they'll tell you how hard they're grinding all season on putting stuff out. Oh, I'm grinding on all these articles I'm putting out. Well, how much time did you put into developing the system and the process that you're using? Or did you just do it willy-nilly? But you're right. There isn't as much curiosity to learn in fantasy football. And I know that you and I, because of our science backgrounds, We were born curious. That's why we went into science. And I get it. Not everybody's got their mind wired that way to be curious. But if you're going to lose, if you're losing money in fantasy football, there's two choices. Do the work to get smarter so you can make money, or stop playing the damn game. Like, I wouldn't want to flush money away being stupid in fantasy football. I'd want to learn and get better so I win money. And I guess, well, if this is your hobby and you're okay, you can afford to lose a couple thousand a year on fantasy football and you enjoy the game, more power to you if you got money to flush like that. I don't want to lose money no matter how I'm doing financially. I want to win money. That's that's what one of the fun parts of fantasy football. But you're right in also saying that I think dynasty players are just a little bit, they're wired to be thinking farther down the road than redraft, who I see so many people by week 6 or 7 of redraft, if they don't have a winning record, they just quit. What a waste that is, because the season's not even half over and you're giving up. Like, I never give up. I keep fighting until the end. And then even when my team sucks, I want to cause somebody else problems in a matchup league or in FPPC where we count points. You're never really out of it, Professor. You can get back in. Like, you could be 150 points down. I've seen 80 to 120 point swings in 1 week. Easy. So you're never really out of it in fantasy football, yet people just, they give up. They're just wired for no success, I guess. And then there's us who every week, I keep a little notebook for our shows and what we talked about on the shows. And on the back of that sheet every week, I write down the ideas that came up during the show. So I've got a diary of possible studies to do during the off season, because you and I'll forget it 5 minutes after we say it. If we don't write it down, we don't think about it. But you're absolutely right. There is not as many curious people in fantasy football, but that's why so many people just write it off to luck.
What can I say? I agree. I'm wondering if people are considering dynasty, maybe that's a characteristic they should look into themselves. Because, for instance, in guillotine leagues or some of these other formats, I'm wondering what might be some, I'll just use the word psychological aspects that are different than redraft
Yeah.
and betting with Vegas. Whoa, they're having a fight.
Uh-oh.
I'm just seeing what's going to happen here. I think they got a favorite toy, and let me try to get them.
Always entertaining what happens there with the professor's dogs.
Are y'all settled? Are y'all settled now?
And folks, French bulldogs, when they want to have an issue, they have an issue.
I'm not moving them right now. I'm letting them, they have to work out dominance.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah. You can edit that out, I guess. The young one is dominant over the old dog.
Oh yeah.
And
So years ago, when I had a black lab mix,
yeah.
and we brought a new younger dog into the
Mhm.
mix, that dog wanted to be the dominant dog.
Yeah.
And the black lab's temperament was like, thank God I don't have to make a decision around here. You got the job. But boy, if you have two dogs that want to hold on to that dominant role, it,
It can be fun.
it can be exciting. I've gone that route as
For
well.
for all our listeners, they get to hear that. I guess that's like championship wrestling or something. There may be a toy or something that is in dispute,
Oh yeah.
and that's not good. Toys or and food, we don't feed them, together, but we
No.
sometimes toys are part of the show. So Dennis, I'm thinking, what the fights? Don't know if I'm looking for a toy. I'm not seeing it. I don't know. Okay. Yeah. So I guess you can edit that out. I'm not going to edit out our show here. But anyway, kind of psychological dominance here. You got to be like the dog and just chew in. Use your curiosity to chew into questions that you have. But I'm thinking people need to consider what it is about the new whatever, the betting, the guillotine, the new format. Is that just you're not winning in redrafts, or you're hoping? It's kind of like at the racetracks. Some people bet on certain things. I'm waiting for it to go for part two here. They're growling, Dennis.
Uh-oh. Don't want to get in the middle of that either. That
No,
that
I'm
could
I'm
be
going to get up here and maybe I'll shut the door. Then they can carry their fight downstairs. Let me hold on here. Y'all ready to go downstairs? Huh? Y'all ready to go downstairs? Come on, y'all go downstairs. Y'all go play downstairs. Y'all go fight each other down. Come on. Okay. Okay. So I let them go downstairs to solve their problems here, and we'll just
Are you sure they're not arguing about a fantasy football trade?
I don't know. That's a hell of an argument, isn't it, Dennis?
Yeah.
Anyway, the last thing to wrap this up for my point is just, like I said, I've seen the track well. Can't win here, so let me bet over there. And that's the
Yeah.
concept, right? I can't win at whatever racetrack, so I'm going to be over there doing that. And I guess if you keep jumping around, then you don't realize how hot the water is. And if you don't look at your total win loss, then you don't have to face that you're losing, and why are you losing and what's going on. And that's something to consider as well, Dennis, in fantasy is what's going on. And one last thing, the reason I'm sticking with redraft is I make money at it. So
Yes.
if I wanted to try something, I would put a little stake, but not a lot. Let's call it prospecting. I'd go over and
Yes.
prospect, but I wouldn't move my whole house. You know, uh, I know our ancestors did that, right? They got in a covered wagon and went to the gold fields in California. I mean, they risked it all going through the Klondike in Alaska. I mean, they everything, whatever. And that's not me. So I'm glad my ancestors did that. But I'm a poor excuse in my lineage, Dennis. I do not want to get in a covered wagon and face dysentery on the Oregon Trail and die of poisoned water. So that's just not me. Anyway, let me stop on this.
Yeah, you know, I play different formats for different reasons. Okay, I like redraft. I can make money at it, so I play in that. I use my best ball drafts more as mock drafts to kind of get my brain in the function of, it's like my spring training. I get some reps with the best ball, but I make a couple of bucks, but I don't specialize in best ball, so I don't make a big profit every year, but I usually make enough to make it worth the effort. I dabble in different formats. I do love dynasty drafts. I'm very successful at that. I've made some good money over the years. So, of course, I play more of my portfolio over there. But I'm curious about guillotine leagues. And I got an invite, a few years ago to play one. And I was like, I don't even know what it is. Let's try it. And it was kind of fun. I didn't win, but it was interesting. And so I put a few bucks up every year now on guillotine. I think I put about 150 bucks on different guillotine leagues this year, and knowing that I'm going to win in redraft and that I'm going to win in dynasty. So it'll cover my losses over there on the guillotine league if I'm not able to win those, because those are, I don't want to say more luck induced, they're more strategy induced. And you can make some mistakes. If I make a mistake in redraft, I can probably fix the roster in waivers. Maybe the roster won't be as good, but I can still keep myself in the running. If I make a mistake in guillotine, it can end my week. I can end that week. If I make bad decisions either with my roster or my starting lineup, I can be cooked in 1 week. And that's the part that makes it, less inviting to me, because I want to have more than one chance to win money. And in redraft, I know I'm going to put together, like, even if I'm doing a bad job on a redraft team, like my worst FPPC team right now, 140 points out of the playoffs. That's still doable to make the playoffs in 4 weeks. That's 35 points a week. You can do that with good play. I mean, I've gained as much as 80 to 120 points in a week this year. And I'm keeping good track of it because I want to learn more about this format. I haven't been playing FPPC, these points only leagues, for that many years. So I want to learn more every single year. But, every format of fantasy football teaches you something new. And I've been successful in IDP leagues, and I don't spend high capital in IDP players. I can just spot the values based on who's the new middle linebacker on a decent defense. If you get the guys up the middle in fantasy football, IDP, the guys up the middle in a lineup are going to score you a lot of points.
Right.
So you want those safeties, you want middle linebackers, you want some linemen who are going to be making a lot of tackles. And again, IDP settings are very different from league to league versus redraft, where you're playing with basically the same rules depending on what platform you're on. But I like to learn and I like to experiment. I like to see, can I get good at this? And those are the kinds of things. And you learn from 1 year to the next if you want to learn, or you just, you have no success and you quit, I guess, is the strategy of too many people. But, and that's not to say this hasn't been a weird year. Okay. We're not sure whether there's been more injuries or not because we haven't done that study. We will during the off season. And that way, every year going forward, we'll know, is this an unusual injury year? Is this a same old, or is this even lighter on injuries? And the reason we're going to study that is because we might be able to find an advantage in that data. Maybe we understand better on how we use our fab money in an bad injury year, or whatever. I don't know what that study will show us, but I'll guarantee we'll learn something from it that we can build into our strategy. But this has been a weird year. Look at the last 2 weeks. And if you're an IDP player, I play in a couple of leagues with IDP players in it. So there was a guy in one of my leagues that rostered that Dallas Cowboys player that committed suicide. So he had to replace a player on his roster, one of his starters, because of a suicide. And now another IDP player has been sidelined because of testicular cancer. These are things that you can't prepare for. And now we've got one of the top 24 wide receivers as far as in ADP, Marvin Harrison Jr., is going to be sidelined for an indefinite time due to appendicitis. I can't remember the last time a player was sidelined with appendicitis during the year. So this has been a weird year, or weird recently, with some of the bizarre things that are happening. But the one thing that really gets me is, and I've been playing fantasy football to the point where, Professor, I used to, early days of the internet, I gained an advantage over my opponents by reading the sports sections in the different towns, different cities where NFL franchises are, and I could know things before they got out on the national sports side of things. That was a huge advantage. Now we've got a 24/7 news cycle. Every day of the year, they're talking NFL. NFL, I mean, you remember it, Professor, in the early days that you're playing fantasy football? As soon as the season was over, you didn't hear anything about fantasy football until the following, maybe August 1st.
Yeah.
Now it's nonstop, around the clock, around the season coverage of this sport. Yet we've got injury situations that we just don't even find out the truth about. I don't know if teams are getting better at hiding the truth from the media, like Travis Hunter. He was supposed to be back in a couple of weeks. Now he's out for the season. Bucky Irving returned to practice doing walkarounds today. He was supposed to be back in action 2 or 3 weeks ago, according to the first reports we saw. So either the reporting is getting really bad and there's really lazy reporters, or the teams are getting good at lying about the status of players. And that has affected the way people are playing in fantasy football.
I agree. And just something to navigate. And it just irritates me, Marvin Harris got appendicitis. I'm not mad at him, but it's just, okay, now I got to go over here. Now I got to go do this. It's just a constant juggle. And it's a lot with 40 leagues. And, but
Oh, yeah.
I guess it's fun. The fun comes, Saturday night after it's said and done, pretty much. And, you're right or wrong about the pickups this week. And I guess in Arizona, so Dennis, I'm thinking DeMarcado and McBride eat more. And then there may be a few extra scraps for Michael Wilson or Dorsch. Is that kind of the scenario you're thinking about?
Yeah. Here's the thing. Sometimes the right answer is that there's nobody you want to pick up. Okay. And that's just because there's nobody that's likely to break out. So when Swift went down with the Bears, we felt really good about Monjay, right?
Yes.
and we're rewarded with a 200-yard game.
Yes.
With Arizona, I don't know if there's anybody you want after Trey McBride because I expect Bam Knight to miss the game. Trey Benson isn't ready to come off of IR yet. They seem to have soured on Michael Carter for some reason.
Yeah, what happened to that?
I don't understand that because he didn't fumble, he didn't do anything wrong. Yet all of a sudden, Michael Carter was, he was sent to the practice squad, and that seemed to be, you know, a mutual understanding of, we're going to bring you back and that kind of thing. But they brought him back to the active roster and they didn't use him.
Yeah, that's
And
very
I don't
strange.
know. After he was better than Bam Knight that first week. So I'm not sure what's happening with Arizona, but I'll tell you the guy that I might pick up if I needed an emergency play this week,
Right.
Elijah Higgins, the other tight end. That
Mm.
might be the answer to who gets more target share because Zay Jones is gone. He's to the IR. You got Michael Wilson, who's just an ordinary player. I don't like ordinary players. Greg Dortch is an ordinary player, good kick returner, and occasionally gets in the end zone because they'll use him on jet sweeps and stuff like that. They got a guy by the name of Xavier Weaver on the roster, but he's questionable as well. And the other only choice on the active roster right now is a guy by the name of Andre Basella. I don't even know who Andre Basella is. And I researched this stuff more than about 99% of people. I couldn't tell you one thing about the player other than he's on the active roster.
Yeah.
So I think Elijah Higgins might be the answer with Arizona. And the reality, though, is it just might not matter because they're playing San Francisco, who's got a pretty decent defense. I know they gave up a lot of points to the Rams last week, but I don't see anybody who looks like Puka Nacua, Devontae Adams, and I'm sorry, Jacoby Brissett is not Matthew Stafford. So I'm not sure it's going to matter this week. I think Arizona could be kind of manhandled on defense, pretty much as they were. I mean, they were trounced by Seattle last week. So I think it could be ugly with San Francisco this week. So maybe the answer is to just steer clear of the whole situation. And sometimes in fantasy football, the best decision is to avoid the whole mess.
Gotcha.
But that's, if I had to grab a player in emergency basis, especially at FPPC where he would get tight end premium,
Yeah.
I'd probably take a shot on Elijah Higgins this week. They've been playing him a lot. Okay. He's been getting a lot of snaps. And now all of a sudden they're going to have somebody do something. And he's looked fairly good in the plays he's made. So yeah, Trey McBride will probably get 20 targets this week.
Yeah.
But I'll be there to pick up a couple of scraps.
Okay.
And we get Jameis Winston back with the Giants probably because it looks like Dart's going to miss a game.
Yeah.
And I'm not even sure.
They've already said that.
Yeah, and I'm not sure how to read that. I'm not sure what that means either. But, sometimes I think some of these teams become, you just want to avoid the whole mess as time comes on because, Winston could throw for quite a few yards. He's got a live arm, but how many interceptions does he throw? That's the big problem I have for this week.
I will make a note that you've got your 2 articles. Is there any they've up on the site? People can check them out. The leader of the pack and the thinking forward and backward. That's kind of how I feel. Sometimes I think backwards. Anything that jumped out this week that people should know about or just dig through the article? Did something slap you around saying this is interesting? In other words, was your curiosity tickled by anything that you saw last week and
So
noted it on your
yes,
articles?
absolutely, because
Okay.
yeah, absolutely, because what we're starting to see now with 10 weeks in.
Mhm.
So I use 4 different metrics. Okay. And I do not, so often, like in our preseason, when we use our 4 metrics, we equate those to 100%, right? So
Yes.
the difference between a position on there can be highly significant or totally insignificant.
Right.
Now, but we know the strengths and weaknesses of each one of our metrics. Okay.
Correct. Correct.
With the way I do things for leader of the pack, I do not equate these to 100%.
Right.
So what you end up getting by this time of the year is you start getting stratification among the different players. So they start breaking out into their own tiers.
Mm-hmm.
For instance, if you add up the position finishes for Lamar Jackson in the 4 different categories,
Mm-hmm.
he has 5 points. So that means he finished first in 3 and second in 1. I mean, that's as dominant of a position player as you can possibly be, other than going for 4 for 4. But nobody at any of the positions is a 4. McCaffrey leads with a 5. Actually, I take that back. Trey McBride is the only
Yeah.
4. And that makes perfect sense, right? He is so far ahead of where everybody else is. In fact, he's about a tier and a half. About 10 points is a tier. He's 13 points ahead of everybody else.
Gotcha.
So that's a huge. So that stratification is kind of it. I'm starting next week. I'm probably going to show the tiers, the
Mm-hmm.
tier breaks, because I think that might make more sense. And it's not like tier 1, tier 2, tier 3, tier 4. There's very, the tiering really breaks itself down pretty naturally. Like right now at wide receiver, Puka Nacua and Amon-Ra St. Brown have a 7-point edge on third place. And they're tied at 11. And wide receiver is the highest point total for a leader. Wide receiver, quarterback, and running back are 5. Tight end is 4.
Mm-hmm.
So McBride's a perfect 4, if you want to think of it that way. CMC and Lamar are a dominant position. They've only, they're only not first in one of the items, and McCaffrey's only 0.4 of a point from being perfect. He's behind Jonathan Taylor for the upside values. But to see that stratification, you really understand how close it is and then how far it is as you go down. So, for instance, there's 39 points right now separating RB1 and RB9. That's huge. But if you want to look at it in a different way, there's another 37 points down to RB19.
Right.
So there's a lot of stratification that is taking place, and then another 30 points and you're down, outside the top 30. So, but that top 9 is so front loaded. In fact, actually about the top 6 at running back are really front loaded, and then there's a drop. And then there's these clusters of players that show up. And so RB7 through 9 are interchangeable. There's 2 points separating the 3 players right now. And I think that I find interesting as the season goes on, the differences between the positions start to be noticeable, and you start to see guys that aren't going to make a move. They're stuck. They're stuck at 6th best or whatever, and they're not going to make a move. I should show that in tiers though, and I think it might have better understanding to everybody on just how big of a difference it is. But like I said, Trey McBride has the biggest lead of any position right now, and that's understandable. He is having a monster year. In fact, if you looked at his ratings right now, Professor, he'd be a top 12 wide receiver or running back.
So he's going in the first round next year again.
He should be a first round pick because
so we'll
especially
be
in FPPC
debating
where
that
you get
the
paid the
whole
premium.
summer, right? We'll have to deal with that.
But the good news is people will probably take Brock Bowers ahead of him. And we were saying that we liked McBride better than Bowers, or at least equal to Bowers. And he became a better value because he was going about 7 picks later. So, that is the big deal in fantasy football. Although right now I'm pretty happy with grabbing Kelsey where I grabbed him this year.
Right.
I'm really happy with grabbing Tyler Warren where I grabbed him, or Ferguson. The only tight end that I really feel like I missed on this year was TJ Hawkinson.
Yeah.
He's been a nothing burger. Like he's been so bad this year. I don't know if is it just the injury? Will he be better next year? Or have we seen the best of TJ Hawkinson? Or is it all quarterback related? I don't know if we have an answer yet on that.
Right. Okay. One last thing before we talk about Thursday night. We have a trade to evaluate. Can you see this?
I'm not seeing the trade yet.
Okay.
I'm seeing your
let me start it again.
In fantasy football this time of the year with Dynasty, I say this without even looking at the trade ahead of time.
Yeah.
You get offers that the only word like ridiculous. Ridiculous isn't even strong enough a lot of times. So I'm anticipating a really insulting offer.
Okay. Well, here is one of the offers.
Okay. DK Metcalf and Quentin Johnston. This will shock you. I like Quentin Johnston better than DK Metcalf right now.
I'm not surprised.
I think he's got more upside. I think what we've seen with DK Metcalf is that he is a WR2 on his own team.
Yeah.
And right now he's having to play WR1. So there is no way. CeeDee Lamb, really? This is a ridiculous. This is beyond ridiculous. This is
so you don't want to say beyond ridiculous, or just shall we reject it?
Yeah, well, let's reject that one. Okay. And be sure to make sure you're hitting the reject button on that one.
It says reject, and it's in red. So let me hit that.
That's the button to hit. See, sometimes I think
then here is the next trade, Dennis.
Yeah, I think sometimes people just send trades.
Oh, you'll love this one. I know
because they're hoping you are too drunk to analyze the data correctly.
So all right, they're gonna throw in Gordon. And he's worth a bouquet. Oh yeah, Dennis. Even I am yucking at this trade.
Oh my Lord!
I was doubtful of the 2-for-1 for Lamb, and now you're going to trade me Gordon to throw it. Okay, Dennis.
In this guy's defense? He did trade us Pacheco in a 3rd round pick for Waddle this year. So maybe he was thinking we would have a lack of common sense again. But we were wide receiver strong and running back weak. And getting rid of Waddle, who would have spent some time on our bench this year, especially if Tyreek Hill had stayed healthy. The one thing I'll say about about Waddle. He
Mhm.
really is taking advantage of his situation,
Mhm.
because if you look at his MVP index with
Mhm.
and without Tyreek Hill,
Mhm.
it's quite amazing. Yeah, he's 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 really taken over that role quite well. In fact, without Tyreek, his MVP is 100. With Tyreek, it was 50.
Wow, that's big.
So I'm willing to say, we took a chance on that trade,
Yeah.
but it's because we knew that Egbuka was better than Waddle and that
Well,
he would
I'm
have to be in our
rejecting this
lineup.
one, huh? In my
Reject this one, yeah. For folks at home, our wide receivers in this league
Bouquet,
are
Devonta
yeah,
Smith, Lamb, and Higgins.
and Higgins. That is a tremendous foursome of players to have at wide receiver, because
And Dennis, I'm liking Ertz over. I mean, it's your team, but that would be how I would get the two
yes,
tight ends.
yes, yeah, I would definitely be playing Ertz this week.
And
Um,
I don't think Bucky's playing.
Bucky's
So
gonna be sitting again. I
so it's going to
I
be lean on that next one.
I'd I'd play Hunt. I'd play Kareem Hunt. Oh, we already have Hunt in the lineup,
Yeah,
don't
we
we?
do.
I would probably,
Chubb,
for right now, I would put Pacheco and Hunt both in the lineup, and that way we're covered with whatever KC scores, because I don't think Hubbard is going to score much unless, if we see a questionable tag on Rico,
and
then
you
I
just don't,
change my
and you
mind.
think Chubb's good for six.
We might put Chubb in there.
Yeah.
Chubb would be the option that we would have to start this week.
Yeah. Well, I'm
Yeah,
sad to see
I feel.
Scatterbo on our injured reserve.
Oh
Man,
man.
imagine having that.
Well, imagine if we had Scatabo and Bucky Irving healthy.
Oh man.
Our team has struggled because of injuries, but
Yeah.
that's not bad luck. We just
No, you
that
can't
just
plan for that.
it's stuff that happens, and we knew we were weak at running back going in.
Yeah.
We couldn't withstand an injury at running back, and we took
Yeah.
it. But
Yeah.
we'll be fine. We're still in the running. We got to
Right.
pick up about 4 or 5 victory points on our
Yeah.
opponent the rest of the way to squeak into the playoffs. If we can get Bucky healthy by the end of the year, we can make a little noise there. But yeah, not a great season for our dynasty team. It's after finishing third. Was it third, second, or third last year?
I thought we
Or
got second.
think we got second. After finishing second last year, I think we were third the year before.
Yep.
So second and a third, everyone's you can't be in the top 4 every single year in dynasty. Sometimes the injuries catch up with you, but I think that team will bounce back. Scatabo. And again, we have some draft picks again this year. We didn't waste all of our draft picks, and we got an additional third. We've been doing really good with those rookie running back choices in the later rounds. So I'm feeling
Well,
pretty good about where we are positioned. I'm glad we grabbed Egbuka this year.
that's great.
He has turned out to be a real, real big find for us.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Shall we get into
Yeah,
our metrics?
absolutely.
It's a Thursday night, New England Jets. I will say, if we could talk about this an hour later, the power rankings are up, and then the predicted rushing
Ooh.
levels and passing. So I am keeping both of these up so we can have something to study. Uh, so that's available. if you want to look at the power rankings, Dennis, here it is.
Very interesting
Yeah.
that
Why
Atlanta
don't
is on
you?
top.
I'm going to let my puppy in. The other one went out.
Yes. So this power rankings this week, there's times that I'm surprised. And when I say surprised, it doesn't mean that I think that it's bad data. It just means that prior to the week, if you would have said, okay, who do you think are the top four teams? I probably wouldn't have had Atlanta or Minnesota in that group. I would have probably had San Francisco doesn't surprise me. Atlanta
They're
surprises me a
playing
little.
at home.
They're
I've
playing at home, yeah.
that's part of it, Dennis, is that really has been the trick for Atlanta being
Yes.
powerful this year.
Yeah, and I'm not surprised to see them in the top group, the top eight, but I am surprised to see them on top with a 3-point edge.
Yes.
That's Detroit at home territory.
Yeah.
That surprises me a little bit because I don't think Penix has been as solid week in, week out, even at home,
Yeah.
to justify that number.
Mm-hmm.
But I've also known from looking at these power rankings, they're pretty damn good. Like they're pretty accurate. So while I'm a little surprised, it will factor into my decision making to the
Yeah.
positive for Atlanta players.
And Atlanta this week is number 3 in scaled rushing, so it's going to be a lot of
Yeah.
Bijan happening. And the passing, though, let's see where way down. So it skewed to Bijan over London and Pitts. Again, folks, I'm just starting to to visualize the data that I've been having, but I don't think I've been paying as much attention as I needed to. I got so much to do. Where's my interns, Dennis? But this, I'm the next weeks going into the playoffs and through. I'm gonna go ahead and do this, and I'll have a little block for us to start some beta testing that will go into next year. And I'll report off season in this block, and we'll kind of chew this up. Don't know if this is real or Memorex. People don't know what that means, but because I'm an old guy, and yeah, yeah. Uh, so anyway, that's this data will be up on our podcast link. I'll put these metrics here and we'll have them then for our Saturday podcast. So you're free to look. And like I said, curiosity, what's going on here? Here's the biggest question I think people that are paying attention, the 2 or 3 that are, thank you, by the way. Does any of this help you or not? Does it put money in your pocket or not? Or is it starting to, click for you? Because the trick is we're not paid for this. The trick is this kind of data and things, it makes us do research that we make money on. So you are seeing what we're going to do anyway. We're just putting it out in public. Not all of it. We got secret stuff. But that's why it's not a grind to me, because
Oh no.
this is solving my curiosity and questions. So that's how I don't do a podcast to squawk. Okay, and of course that's why I'm with Dennis, because he's the only one that can out squawk me. You have 2 baby birds in the nest, and you figure one's going to be dominant. Dennis can scream as loud as I can for the fish mama has in her mouth. So we're both got our mouths open, ready for the herring or whatever mom's got here. We are flapping our flippers and trying to get that. So Dennis and I work together that way. So come catch us at the expo as well in person if you don't believe it. And so anyway, that's the question. Does this help you or not? If it doesn't,
Yeah.
then you can ask for a refund of the no money. So I will send you virtual no money for this. I mean, what do you expect? But
you
we're
you
doing
get
this
you
because
get
it helps us.
triple. You
You
get
get
triple the money
triple
back.
your no money back, right?
Yeah, you get
Yeah.
three
Yeah.
times your
So,
investment back.
Dennis, I'm trying to figure out right. So, what I would hope to do, and I don't know quite how to work it yet, is blend in this stuff with the DApps, with the MVP, with other metrics that kind of blend it in. And I just don't know, if it's too much of this or not enough of that. A lot of people will have these numbers, and Dennis and I secretly talk about stuff, and we've done a little bit of secret stuff. And you'll have a list of variables, but what's real? Is there one or two that's the main show, and the rest of them is just you basically waste your time?
Yes.
And yeah, I think the answer is yes, folks. There's a
Yes.
lot people. And remember, the more the exotic metrics people can flap about, the more they become the expert in the exotic metric. So it's a way to, well, forget their stuff. I've got the, steps per air yard metric, and it is modeling great, right? It's called redboarding, right? You know, and in my stats class, the professor showed this way back in the day, Dennis, people used to smoke cigarettes. And so he was saying that, look at this chart here. These two things, one of them is cigarette smoking and cancer rates. And this line down here is notice it's predictive. It seems to follow these, like the more cigarettes and cancer, that's falling with this mystery metric. And everybody, well, what is that? And everybody was, lifestyle, weight, everybody's look. He said, no, that's a number of telephone poles in the area where they're sampling cigarettes and cancer. And it has nothing to do. It's the causation concept, right?
Yes.
And
Yes.
it turns out in the old days, before wireless, we had this thing called a telephone. It said there was one and in a long cord, and you'd have to hide in the closet to have a private conversation. But they had telephone cord poles. And the more people, Dennis, the more telephone poles. The more people, the higher the cancer. Cause
Yes.
yeah, and probably more people smoking. So if there's only 10 people in the county, Dennis, not a lot of smokers there in 10, but if there's 100,000, a lot of telephone cords and poles and cancer. So,
And probably more air pollution if you have
oh yeah,
more
yeah,
more
all that.
telephone poles, and we
Yeah,
know air pollution
air
can
pollution
lead to
can do.
things.
Anyway,
Yeah,
Dennis, trying to
my
figure out what all this is and blend it together is part of my journey here. And I'm just showing you another part of it that I'm curious about.
yeah, and you got to be really careful about this whole causation correlation thing,
Yep.
because my stats professor had another fun one. It showed 97% of people that committed a murder
Yeah.
had something in common. They
Mhm.
chewed gum as when they were a kid.
Yep. Chewed gum.
So,
That's nice.
you couldn't use that like, but if you look at the total population of gum chewers,
Yeah.
you had a very small percentage of people committing murder. See, you do have to be careful the way you use some of these statistics. And I'll tell you, we've been using the power rankings that the professor does. I've been using those for the last, what, 3, 4 years?
Yes.
And there hasn't been a huge amount of change of how you've produced that data. So the data has been fairly constant. So it's given a good test, and I could tell you unequivocally, it has put money in my pocket because for the tough decisions, that final decision on a team, and sometimes it's a no-brainer. Like I have a couple of FPPC teams where, on Tuesday morning, I usually go through and look at my roster, where I am, bye weeks and injuries and whatnot. Am I going to have to make an emergency waiver ad to fill out my lineup, or am I good? And I've had some lineups this year, Professor, where I'm good. Like between injuries and buys and just underperforming players versus the starters, my starting four decisions between running back, or starting six, between my two running backs, two wide receivers, two flex, automatic. Don't even have to think about it because there's such a gap to the next player, or I don't even have another player active. But when I have a tough decision, when I've got two or three or even four players that are very close, that power ranking data has been correct. Like the use of that as a tiebreaker has had a 75 to 80% hit rate. That's huge in fantasy. If I can get a 60% hit rate with a data source, I'm feeling pretty damn good about it. It's more like 75 to 80% of the time that I've had to make a decision. Now get it. It's not every decision, but it's those tough decisions. I don't know how to use the scaled pass and the scaled rushing attempt yet. We're just learning. This is brand new.
Yeah.
We have not seen that. You haven't been producing this for very long. We don't have a track record of it yet. But I remember way back in the day when the buyer figures were new in horse racing. And sometimes that new data, it points you in a different direction. And sometimes that uniqueness ends up cashing money for you. I mean, our metrics that we use in the preseason, for instance, I would say it generates a unique set of players, correct? Versus ADP.
Yes. I
That
think the
that
further down we go, the
yes, yes,
better.
yes, yes,
And
yes.
and what we see in mid rounds is we're stronger than others and weaker than others. In other words, our opinions start fluctuating stronger versus the first round.
Correct.
Necessarily, there are a few exceptions to that. Like this year, you have to throw value in. You already talked about tight ends, Bowers versus McBride, and we said if they're the same, then we'll take the cheaper one, right?
Yes,
That kind of thing. The
yes,
quarterbacks, well, if they're the same, we'll take the cheaper one. And the only, I think I got two or three Lamar Jacksons when he fell further than I would have thought. I mean, you
yes.
just like it slaps you, and you can't walk away from it. And it was a deal you can't walk away from. And we see
And
more of that using our metric because we're seeing this is a deal. And your maiden and your index, your opportunity really nailed that. And it's been working and helping, and you know, it's kept me going in a lot of marginal leagues, Dennis, kept me afloat. And I once again, I appreciate, your hard work there.
well, in and you're welcome because I look at us as a team, and I want to make money for you as well as I make money for myself. Because we learn a lot from each other. But here's the thing: is in addition to having a unique group of players, I think our unique strategy is helping us as well because you couldn't afford to carry all of these rookie running backs like Woody Marks, and now RJ Harvey is going to step up. Travion Henderson has stepped up. Last year it was Bucky Irving. If you're, and this year was Scatabo before he got hurt. And remember, before we knew where Scatabo was going to land, I didn't have Scatabo rated that high. But when he landed with the Giants, the opportunity index was screaming at us.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of how you have to always be looking in fantasy football. And this time of the year, you're getting to the point where we joke back in May, we don't even know what we don't know right now. Going into week 11, we know about 95% of what we need to know for the fantasy football playoffs. We're well aware who the next man up is. We know what the pecking order is on teams. We know if this is a good year or a bad year for a particular quarterback. And sometimes it's just injuries around that quarterback. Like Jordan Love started the season just fine. As that offensive line has dealt with more and more injuries, and now they lose their center. So as they lose bits and pieces to the supporting cast, that's going to bring the value of a player down. But this power ranking data gives you a clue to what's going on with the team as a whole. And that's what I love about this concept that you came up with, because, and again, seeing Atlanta so high on this list now makes me rethink the way I'm going to attack the week. I was going to sit Pitts. Now maybe I take a second look at some of my Kyle Pitts teams. I'm definitely, obviously, you're always starting Bijan. Maybe I'm starting Penix this week. I've got a couple of tough decisions to make. I got a Penix Darnold decision to make.
Look at Carolina this week.
Yeah.
I mean, again, folks, this would be that last flex tiebreaker right now. That would be, if you want to use it, that's what I would do until we've gotten stronger data. That's about the level I use. It's just kind of like I'm familiar, like, yeah, there's something happening over there, but let me use other things as well. In other words, I blend it in, Dennis. It's not floating to the top. It's part of the mix.
Yes, part of the mix, and that's been especially the success with the power rankings.
Yes.
Remember what I've said, folks. Teams in the red in the power rankings, it doesn't mean you throw all the players out. It just means, if I'm sitting in a situation where I have to start more than one guy from the Jacksonville Jaguars,
yeah,
I'm really curious as to why. Why would I want to start more than ETN this week? Yeah. If I have to start him, okay. Yeah. But I'm going to go into it with my eyes wide open.
Washington, that's why I like Ertz, because Terry's out. So yes. I think that opens the door for him to be in, to get, some love.
And Rodriguez is probably out as well, which
that should add more to the.
Yeah, that probably. And when I say that, I'm not saying that I expect a big week from Bill. I'm expecting them to pass more.
Yeah.
And if they pass more, I expect it to be Ertz that has that shot.
Yeah, and I don't know that Washington is expected to rush very little.
Yeah, and
be cautious of Bill. Sense. And Washington is expected to pass second.
And so they are right very,
and so Dennis, this may be a differential situation where we might take this metric, subtract the rush, and get a ratio. and look at the extreme ratios skewed one way or the other versus a balanced team that's, high, high or low, low. In other words, I can see skewed one way, skewed the other, or not skewed at all kind of thing, kind of three buckets. And I don't know what we would see off that, but that would be how I would score keep some of this, and I will report on this. We'll look, and I can statistically test like fantasy points or attempts or yards, that kind of thing. So I can use metrics in testing the players in the three buckets. So yes,
Yeah, and I
I'm
love that.
liking
Yeah.
Ertz. I'm liking Ertz versus Bill.
And I've got a couple of teams where I'm on the border of whether I start Tutoria McMillan or not. And the fact that
I
Carolina
think
wants
he's
to
going to get
pass,
garbage time, and if
he's,
they're dominant, he may be the reason they're dominant.
yeah. And that's why I say this data, I think, just like the power rankings themselves, the power rankings have been such a good last flex or last decision. And again, it can be between two running backs as well. And the way I would use this is use these new metrics. If I've got, let's say, three running backs for two situations, two starting spots, because that's my first sort. Okay. I always sort my starters at running back and wide receiver first, and then the leftovers, including the leftover tight ends, get thrown into the decision on the flex.
Right.
And in this situation, if I've got three running backs and I've got two in the green and one in the red, it's going to be hard pressed to play that guy in the red unless his MVP is so much better. Right. And that's actually my first sort is I look at the MVPs, look at where I've got these players ranked. I look at, the longer MVP and this season MVP. I'll sometimes break down the data as to the last 5 or 6 weeks. What has the guy been doing? Has he been consistent? And then I look at this power ranking data. Maybe this rush and receiving or this rushing and passing splits get mixed into that as well. Fascinating data, Professor, and I love that you're breaking this stuff down because more data is useful if you use the data correctly.
Yep.
In horse racing, you can't just take the lead horse in Beyer figure and discard everything else.
Right.
Because that horse could have come up with one great race, and that was the high Beyer, and the rest of the Beyers might be, under 50. He might have had one great race, and he might have done that in a lower class race and just had the race of his life. Or here's the thing, maybe the track was rated wrong that day, and it skewed the data. In this case with fantasy football, we have to look at every piece of data with the regard of it's another piece of the puzzle. It's not the whole puzzle.
I agree. Dennis,
all right, Professor.
We've been talking, fighting, having dog fights. It's been crazy here.
It's been an active day. We've had 2 insulting trades. We got to ridicule
on air. That was good.
Reject and ridicule online, and now we get
third. I'm surprised they haven't done the trade receipts or something. That there you go, Dennis. So if a trade receipt show up, all of a sudden it's Dennis, and I hadn't heard from Fantasy Receipts since they supposedly outed him. Have you noticed anything this week?
It's been very, very quiet.
Yeah, been
very
crickets,
quiet,
very suspicious.
Which is sad. I enjoy.
I enjoy
good
people getting roasted. I do. I'm sad that way, Dennis. That's my character flaw. is I'm
And
sad
I
that
think
people
everybody
get mad
is,
about something that's not important in the real world at all, but they take it, like probably the championship, uh, jacks tournament, people throwing jacks and grabbing them, you know, and if you could roast somebody for their poor play and they got mad about it, I mean, it's nothing. This is a pretend game. So quit
well,
worrying about that.
it's, well, we need to have,
But
did you
trade
hear maybe
receipts,
people are, yeah, trade receipts will be
trade
good.
receipts, Dennis.
Maybe people are just too pissed off at Sleeper this week
Oh,
to
what
get
did
involved in
Sleeper
anything else.
do?
So on their social media account, Sleeper
Yeah.
likes to throw out some funny, or what they are attempting at funny comments.
Hmm.
So somebody posted, it's always them responding to something that had nothing to do with football or fantasy football. So some lady posted, women have they give birth, they have their period, and they have menopause, and they have all these things. What do men have? And Sleeper posted, all they did was post a picture of Geno Smith, which I thought was
Whoa.
hilarious. Okay. So there was another one where somebody had said something about Jalen Hurts.
Right.
And, just when you expect Jalen Hurts to be fantastic, well, Sleeper posted a picture of Angel Reese,
Oh,
the pro basketball player, female
right.
pro basketball player who misses a
Right.
lot of shots.
Yeah.
And it cropped her face
And,
into a Jared Hurts photo.
right.
So,
People are
poor,
sensitive about things these
very,
days.
very poor taste. Okay. Both jokes were very poor taste,
Mhm.
but there's like some level of funny to them as well. Would I have posted either one? No. Okay. I think there was a little low blow on both sides, but people are screaming, "Oh, this is racist. This is a." How could that be racist? Like you're making fun of a black football player by using a black basketball player. I
I
don't see how
don't
they
know.
came up with racist. They could
I,
they could say it was bad, in bad taste, and I would agree with that. But boy, people are just getting too bent out of shape. They're threatening to leave Sleeper because of the bad humor by their social media person, and Sleeper quickly deleted both posts.
I
But
bet.
of course, everything lives on the internet
Yeah.
forever. Well, let's get to Thursday
Okay.
night
Okay.
football. This is an interesting game indeed.
34 to 15, 9.5. So it's not one of the stronger ones of the week. But the the 50, Dennis, the 50 is the trick. It's over under, but it's one of these where does New England need 34 points? And I always bring this up. I think last week there was a game or two like that. And I'm just curious the last 10 years. I know Vegas knows, but when Vegas puts things like this together, does that really help their bottom line? Or, are they just deliberately trying to get a little crazy here? Because I don't know if New England needs but about 27, 28 points to beat the Jets. So, of course, I mean, look, Thursday night, I want, the last second touchdown or field goal. That's what I want. Okay. I want lots of garbage time for everybody. Everybody is festive and celebrates lots of points. That's what I want. What we're going to get, it could be lean. It could be leaner than you think this time. But with that, if you look at the DAPS, New England pretty much it says pass. Hunter Henry has an opportunity. The kicker, there's field goals going to happen, and they are a great streaming defense. That I put, where they were available. There's only one out of my 40 leagues that
Yeah.
they're out there, but I'm trying to get them. And the Jets, if you need something, an emergency, they're okay, but they're not the best, but they're in the mix. I would say sixth, seventh, eighth pick for a streamer, but they may be a lot more available. Their DAPs say, forget the runs, Jets. It's all about you beat us by passing. That's what it says. So, but they've got Brees Hall. Come on now. All it means is Brees Hall will probably get one touchdown, not three.
Yeah.
I mean, I would never bench somebody that just for a DAP. Now, with that said, if this was Kamara and I saw this, I'd be because Kamara has not lived up multiple games, Dennis. It's
Yes.
not like Brees Hall has been a dud the whole time, and then he flips to this. Yes, I would be concerned, but Brees Hall has not been a dud. He's been having some good spike weeks and things, so there's nothing to scare me off here. Or there's nothing for Travion Henderson because they released him. The only thing that would scare me about, Travion here, I mean, it's not scary, but if Ramondre Stevenson is back, and he may be, and then they're cutting opportunity. I mean, to me, that's scarier than the defense of the Jets, Dennis. If I had one of those
Yes.
guys and I looked at the DAPs, I'm not scared of the DAPs. I'm scared of nobody gets the opportunity, or it's a hot hand. And if I own one, then the other gets the hot hand, and I'm losing. So that makes me angry there. But there's nothing you can do about the old hot hand. New
Well,
England, yeah,
here's
go ahead.
here's the good news.
Yeah.
Ramondre Stevenson is out. He's
Oh,
gonna be
well, that
he's
solves
gonna
that
be scratched.
problem.
And Travion, who is listed as questionable, came off the questionable list
Okay,
today.
there you go then. Then that opens him up as well, folks. I would
and
definitely, play him as you need this week.
and short weeks are so tough with injuries because you
Yeah,
just don't know how a
yeah.
guy's going to
That's why I
respond.
hate Thursday. I
Oh,
think if they do these kind of meta studies with injury and soft tissues, and I think there's some, if I was in sports medicine, I'd be curious,
I
Dennis.
I
If
think
I represented some of my
yeah,
clients or knew some agents, and I'd be like, hey, let's talk to the NFL. Let's shut this stuff down. Just like flying to Spain or wherever. I
yeah,
mean,
my
drinking the water, eating the enchiladas or whatever they serve over the tapas. Man, ain't no telling what's in. I mean, look, your gut flora, this is the normal bacteria. People, uh, if you didn't know, we all have bacteria inside of us. And when you go to traveling, Dennis, sometimes you replace it with new
oh
bacteria,
yeah,
and your body's not used to that. That's what it is. Yeah, if you live in another country for a long time, then you're used to it. Then if you come back, say to America, you have problems here. I mean, it's just back and forth there. But anyway, New England at home, their scaled efficiency, they'll play anywhere, home or away. 54%, so above league average. But the Jets, Dennis, in third 74%, but
wow,
they love away, and they're 7% better away. And
wow,
they tend to rush and pass 9 and 5% more, and they've been improving. So there's some goodness to be had. If you are a Jets fan, this you can take some hope with the DAPS. And it wouldn't surprise me the Jets score more points than you think, Dennis. But I don't like Thursday.
oh,
I'm picking New England in my pick 'em. I'll announce that now. All the league makes. I think I'm ahead by 5 games. So
Oh yeah, you're
y'all
kicking our butts.
come try to knock me off. To be the man, you got to beat the man or woman. You got to beat us. And so I'm wearing the championship belt right now. I will do I will record or maybe play a Ric Flair woo
Woo!
at the end of the
Woo!
game. If I'm still ahead, then I'm going to make sure I shame all the other members there. Just I'm lying low, Dennis, just floating in the weeds. Where's that old professor? He sure is nice. Crush you like a bug. What you talking about nice? Anyway, but that's fine. We're all fun and we're all happy until we're not. Anyway, what say you, Dennis?
Yeah, this is an interesting game, and I agree with you. I hate Thursday night football. I wish that if they wanted to have another primetime weekday game, that they got rid of Thursdays and had Tuesday night football instead. I know it would screw up fantasy football. They'd be all up in an uproar because they'd have to move their waiver days. Yeah, you'd have to move it to same as FPPC running on Wednesday night. It would be smarter anyway, folks. But this is a particularly interesting game. Garrett Wilson is out for the Jets, and he might be gone for several weeks. So that's not good. Adonai Mitchell, the guy they call AD, that they got from the Indianapolis Colts in that Sauce Gardner trade. If he knows the play, if he has learned enough of the playbook to be active this week, he was not last week. I think he could be a sneaky play. And again, when I say sneaky play, I'm just talking about your last flex position if you are in need because of injuries. And he might get you 6 to 8 points. And if he gets in the end zone, then it's a bonus. The guy's had decent draft capital. He's got a good resume from college. He's looked okay at times in the pros, but just has not been quite there as far as, being good enough to crack the starting lineup with the Colts. Now he's got to beat out Arian Smith, Tyler Johnson, and Isaiah Williams, and John Mechie and Alan Lazard. I think he could do that. So he's an intriguing play. Mason Taylor should have a good game for the Jets. And I agree with you. Breece Hall is in my starting lineup. Even if they stop the rush, even if New England stops the rush, he'll get targeted 3 to 5 times in the passing game. So that gives you a little bit of insurance. On the New England side of the ball, you've got Ramondre out, Travion off the questionable list. Terrell Jennings, who was splitting time with Travion last week, he is questionable going into this game. So they're going to have to bring somebody off the practice squad because New England, that's it for their active running backs. On the wide receiver side, Boute's out. So Mac Hollins looks good here. So does Kyle Williams. He had a good game last week. He's an intriguing rookie that I liked in the preseason. Didn't pan out because Diggs and Boute were good enough.
So if you
Now
had to pick
Boute's out.
one, who are we picking this week, Dennis? Hollins or Williams?
If I had to go with
Let's
somebody
say
here,
Boute's out the next 3 weeks. Which one, it comes back for the player. Who am I taking of those two?
So with Wilson out and Boute out,
Yep.
I'm probably going to roll the dice on Adonai Mitchell because he has
Okay.
nobody in front of him. While Kyle Williams has Stephon Diggs, who will continue to eat. The other interesting one is Hunter Henry has been splitting some of that tight end targeting with Austin Hooper. Hooper's out.
Oh, then and look at the depth. There's evidence that Hunter Henry might get it. It seems and see the Jets. Who is their
Mason
tight
Taylor.
end?
Mason
Okay,
Taylor.
so there is your tight end parlay again. Somehow I always feel like there's your, 5 catches each, or maybe touchdown parlay, or I may be bored, and if I'm bored, I might do that parlay if I'm bored, but
Yeah,
I'll have to be bored.
yeah. And here's what I'm going to say about New England. They've blown out the teams that they're supposed to beat. Okay, so they blew
Yeah,
out the Titans, blew out the Browns.
yeah,
They played a pretty close game against the Saints. Okay,
yep.
they just squeaked. Here's the weird one. So they beat the Bills, then they struggled with the Saints. Like, try to figure that out. So they've blown out the teams. They blow out the Panthers. They're supposed to beat the Panthers by a ton, but they're also supposed to beat the Dolphins and the Saints by a ton, and they didn't.
I'm looking at the New England and the Jets are that big difference. That's why I picked
Yeah.
them.
Oh, I picked New England to win the game, but
Yeah,
I'm not so sure this is more than a 6 to 8 point game at the end. Uh,
yeah. I just don't know if it's going to be that high. That was my original
yes,
claim.
yeah, and I agree with the under. I agree with the under here.
I'm
Um,
suspicious. I'm not betting it, folks, but and Dennis, look, it's Jets fifth rushing versus New England about league average. So it looks
yeah,
like it's skewed. The Jets are going to run more. And let's see, passing, I'm guessing New England. Yep, New England is
yep,
passing more.
yep, yep.
And
I
I'm
agree with that.
assuming the Jets are the Jets.
Jets are kind of in there.
Yeah,
Yeah,
they're more balanced than you would think, but it looks like New England is all about the passing. So I think Hunter Henry has a good shot at collecting 5 shots and maybe a touchdown. There's your parlays right there with your Mason. So, but I
if I
think,
if
yeah,
I had to set a sliding scale for where I expect the total points to be,
yeah.
I might pick 35 to 40.
Wow.
If I had to put a 5 point, you know, spread in my
Hmm.
spread for
Right,
over under,
right.
I'd probably put 35 to 40, and I feel pretty good about that.
Nice,
That I was going to
nice,
hit that. So I really like the under here.
nice.
And
Well,
it's
Dennis, I
Thursday
think
night.
we hacked and sliced that pretty good.
Yeah, we did.
So anyway, folks, just get your notebook, get your diary, keep that going. Even if you're out, follow what's going on. What are the winners doing in your leagues? Okay, just don't just flop over like a fainting goat, right? Or an old possum down here. Don't do that. I don't know. We are not playing fantasy football to flip over like in what we call there's a white perch, or I don't know what you call them. We call them crappie. And if you
Yep.
let them go in the boat, they'll flop around. Don't do a crappie flop. Okay, your team, no, don't crappie flop your team. Stand straight, swim against the current, be tough and strong, and don't keep going. Spoil somebody else's good time. Come on now. The two or three that listen, I hope you're fierce as we are, because I'm not giving up on even my 12th team. I'm going to keep doing waivers and, just trying to make sure whoever makes it to the playoffs in that team, and it probably 12th, it won't be me, but by golly, they're going to earn it. Guaranteed, Dennis.
Yeah, if you're playing in a matchup, just celebrate every win. And I guess my old home league that went on for many, many years, we had kept that going for about 25 years before everybody moved away and, was tougher to do a draft. So it finally died. But that old league, we used to pay off money for every win. So you became so programmed to try to win every week, right down to the final week of the regular season, because there was money to be made and you could win back. Even if you're missing the playoffs, you could win back a portion of your entry fee by having a hot time down the final weeks of the season. So never give up, never give in. You always want to keep striving. Head on over to the scienceoffantasyfootball.com. Check out all of this data, because sometimes you need to look at the data and really dive into it to really understand it. as the professor says, write yourself a little note on a sheet of paper how this data worked for you. Did it work? Did it not work? How did you find it useful? And learn from that
And
every
please
week.
let us know,
Yes.
if we helped you.
Let us know indeed, and head on over to the Sports Affiliation and like and subscribe to their YouTube channel. Lots of great shows, including the Matchup Lab coming again this week, as it does every week. And head on back here next Saturday for another edition of the Science of Fantasy Football.
Whew. Get to work, folks.
Yeah, we did carry on for a long time.
We
I didn't
did more
realize
than
how
we
long we were
probably
going.
needed to.
But we were having a good old time,
Yeah,
boy.
and my
That was a good
dogs, they
old
were
time.
tearing each other's apart.
That was actually quite funny. Yeah.
Well, it wasn't funny if my legs
What?
are down there next to
No,
them dogs.
no.
They're
No,
those are
that's only
French
funny.
bulldogs,
Only
Dennis.
funny by long distance.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because bulldogs,
Ooh,
the people don't. I mean, those things latch on. They don't let go. They're nutty that way.
they're
Bulldogs
they're
are not.
fierce dogs. They are.
Dennis,
They will.
they'll take on anything. Yeah, they
So
do.
when I was growing up, um, now this wasn't a French bulldog, but this was an English bulldog. A friend of mine had an English bulldog. The dog would literally run into the door to let you know it was ready to go out or come back in.
Yeah, I bet he
It
would.
just
His old
it and
hard head.
it broke the daggone screen door
Yeah.
one time. That's how fierce that, and it didn't care. It was just like, I'm getting to where I want to go. That's all I care about. But yeah, they've got one speed too. Like they're go or asleep. Those are their two speeds. So fun dogs. Fun
Well,
dogs.
they're different. I'm gonna tell you that right now. They are different animals, and they go nuts. They certainly
They
do,
will
Dennis.
they will get your attention.
They they will. They get angry. They go to town. They get going, man. I'm telling you. Okay, I guess we will shut this down. Let me stop recording.